The Galactic Council had called it the most dangerous diplomatic posting in known space. Ambassador James Morrison had called it career suicide. But Anna Chen had simply smiled and accepted the assignment to the Zathresh homeworld without hesitation. The Zathresh were apex predators, feet of rippling muscle, razor-sharp claws, and a bite force that could crack starship hull plating. Their society had evolved from pack hunters who had dominated their planet's food chain for millions of years. When they'd achieved spaceflight, the galaxy had collectively shuddered. But Anna had read the xenological reports differently. Yes, the Zathresh were formidable warriors. Yes, their culture revolved around strength and dominance. But buried in the appendices she'd found something fascinating. Zathresh family units were fiercely protective, and their young underwent an extended developmental period lasting nearly 2 decades. "You're insane," James had told her during the shuttle ride down to the planet's surface. As her security attach, he'd had no choice but to accompany her. These are creatures that hunted megafauna for sport before they invented agriculture. They're also creatures that form lifelong pair bonds and raise their offspring communally, Anna had replied, adjusting the thick wool socks she wore inside her boots. The embassy's climate control was notoriously unreliable, and she'd learned to dress in layers. The first month had been tense. War leader Krothex, their primary contact, regarded them with the kind of predatory interest that made James's hand drift toward his sidearm. The compound they'd been assigned was ancient by human standards, saw polished stone floors and sweeping corridors that seemed designed for creatures much larger than humans. Everything changed the day Anna met the cubs. She'd been working late in her office, feet tucked under her as she reviewed trade proposals. She'd slipped off her boots hours ago, leaving only her soft, fuzzy socks, a cheerful purple pair with little stars on them. When she'd gotten up to stretch, she'd discovered something remarkable. The polished stone floors were incredibly slippery. One experimental slide down the hallway later, Anna was grinning like a child. The corridor stretched for nearly 50 meters, and the momentum carried her almost the entire length. She didn't notice the 3 small figures watching from a doorway the next morning. James found her surrounded by Zathresh cubs, the offspring of war leader Krothex himself. They were small only by Zathresh standards, each still massing more than an adult human. Their claws, not yet fully hardened, clicked excitedly against the floor as they chirped and growled in their native tongue. "Anna," James said slowly, his hand on his weapon, "step away from the predators." "They're not predators, James, they're kids." Anna was sitting cross-legged, pulling soft socks onto the cubs' hind paws, or at least, she was trying to. The cubs kept pulling their feet away, examining the strange soft coverings with fascination and confusion. The largest cub, who Anna had learned was named Dextra, finally allowed her to secure the socks. He stood, took one tentative step, and immediately splayed out on the slick floor with a surprised yelp. Anna couldn't help it, she laughed. For a moment, James thought they were dead. The cubs' ears flattened, their lips pulled back, and then they laughed too. A chittering, chirping sound that echoed through the corridor. Dextra scrambled to his feet, took a running start, and slid down the entire length of the hallway, arms windmilling for balance. His siblings shrieked with delight and rushed to follow. Within an hour, the embassy had become a playground. Cubs slid down corridors, perfecting their techniques, teaching each other how to lean and turn. Anna sat at the end of one hallway, catching the youngest when she overshot her stopping point, then helping her back to the starting line. War leader Krothex found them in the afternoon. James immediately stepped forward, prepared to make whatever apologies or reparations were necessary for corrupting the cubs of a ranking Zathresh leader, but Krothex simply stood there, his massive head tilting as he watched his offspring play. When he finally spoke, his voice rumbled like distant thunder. "I have never heard them make these sounds. What have you done to my cubs?" Anna stood, barely reaching the warrior's chest. "I taught them how to have fun." Fun. Krothex tested the word in his mouth. "This is a human concept. It's a universal concept," Anna replied. "Your cubs are still learning, still growing. They're not warriors yet, they're children, and children need to play." Something shifted in Krothex's expression. He watched Dextra slide past, socks now slightly worn from repeated runs. The cub's face split in an unmistakable expression of joy. "Our species has fought for territory, for resources, for dominance," Krothex said quietly. "We believed humans were weak because you lack claws and fangs. But perhaps," he watched as Anna handed his youngest cub another pair of socks, carefully helping secure them. "Perhaps we misunderstood what strength means." James relaxed his hand from his weapon, finally understanding what Anna had known all along. The Zathresh were predators. Yes. fierce and formidable, but they were also parents who loved their children, who wanted them to experience joy and wonder. In all their strategic planning, the Galactic Council had forgotten the most human insight of all. People weren't that different, once you got past the teeth and claws. Over the following weeks, the embassy became a regular gathering place for Zethresh families. Cubs of all ages came to slide down the corridors in their soft socks, a gift the human diplomat always seemed to have in abundant supply. Warriors who had never smiled learned to laugh at their offspring's antics. Trade negotiations, previously stalled for months, suddenly flowed smoothly. Cultural exchanges were arranged. A war that both sides had seemed destined for evaporated in the sound of chittering laughter echoing through stone corridors. And when Anna was eventually reassigned, promoted to senior ambassador for predator-species relations, Krothex himself attended the ceremony. His cubs, now juveniles, but still fond of their sliding games, presented her with a gift, a set of handmade socks, scaled for human feet, woven from the finest materials their world could produce. "You showed us that strength is not only in battle," Krothex said. "Sometimes it is in knowing when to play." James watched the ceremony, shaking his head in amazement. Anna had done the impossible not through force or cunning, but through fuzzy socks and an understanding that transcended species. Humanity, fuck yeah, indeed.